So I just read the pilot chapter of Seven Deadly Sins. What I mean by that is that it is the very first one-shot chapter that Nakaba Suzuki wrote and drew 47 Deadly Sins series as a way to pitch Seven Deadly Sins so we could eventually get into a full-on series in the magazine. And I read it, I gotta say, it was pretty good, I have to say, and I kind of liked it more than the very first chapter of Seven Deadly Sins, if I'm being completely honest with you, as certain things that we saw in chapter 1 and throughout the series were not prevalent in this one-shot chapter. And I'll get into that as I go through the entire chapter, but before all that, please like and subscribe, hit the notification bell for updates on future videos, it really does help. Going through stuff with Seven Deadly Sins and Four Nights of the Apocalypse being the main content I make on this channel at this point, it was only a matter of time before I decided to just check out the one-shot for Seven Deadly Sins to check out the differences and whether or not it was better or worse compared to the actual serialization that we got. So, honestly, it was a matter of time before I would pick this up. But if there's anything in particular I want to talk about for Seven Deadly Sins, whether it be one-shots, special chapters, or even just theories or what-ifs, I want to try and do more what-ifs in the future, let me know in the... But let's just hit that intro and get right into the video. So, this one-shot chapter actually starts off in a relatively similar way to chapter 1, as they're relatively similar in terms of how things are set up and things are going through. It's in the middle of a snowstorm, though, as someone is walking towards a pub on the mountain, as we see customers talking about the ghosts of the Seven Deadly Sins and how they're looking for the missing members. And we get our first glimpse of an earlier design of Meliodas. His hair is down, not spiky like it is. He doesn't show full-on his muscles. He seems a bit taller than he is in the main series, and I kind of like the design, though the hairstyle I think of Meliodas I'm a bit too used to, so I would kind of prefer that one as well as the classic design of his actual outfit. But just then the door opens up and someone in all rags walks in stating Seven Deadly Sins, unlike with chapter 1 where it was a suit of armor, but this is actually a giant bundle of rags walking in a snowstorm. As the customers see this, they all start to panic and ask the manager to do something, but apparently this version of Meliodas does not like scary stuff. And it comes back later in the chapter also. Apparently he just is not that great with scary things and ghosts, which is a kind of funny character trait if you want to add into a character, because I like Meliodas, but some things, I think this probably would have made him a lot funnier to watch at times too. But then this giant bundle of rags that this person is trips on themselves and they unravel themselves and crash into one of the tables in the bar. As it's revealed, it is a girl and she just automatically starts gulping up all the spaghetti and food on the table as everyone's like, wait, is this a girl? And it's also revealed that this girl just hasn't really eaten anything in a long time. And everyone's wondering if this is one of the Seven Deadly Sins. But then she just pops on up and asks, I'm looking for the Seven Deadly Sins. Does anybody know about them? As everyone in the bar is like, does she know what she's talking about? You shouldn't be shouting stuff like that, as there is someone in shadows just sitting quietly and notices her talking. As Meliodas comes up and starts berating her, stating that she better pay for the broken table. Now, here's the thing that I noticed in comparison to the Elizabeth in the main series at the start to this version of Elizabeth. I mean, she gives her name in like a little bit, but it's obviously Elizabeth. But she is kind of a dumbass, while also being incredibly energetic and outspoken. We see this throughout the entirety of the chapter, but in comparison to the soft-spoken and incredibly nervous and easily gullible Elizabeth that we saw in the main series at the start, I think I kind of like this version of Elizabeth a little bit more, because she has more of a personality right off the bat, if I'm being right. I don't know if this is just me, and if I'm probably making people angry over this. I like Elizabeth as the series progresses in the main story, but in terms of first impressions in the very first chapter of a series, when you end up introducing your main leads, I kind of prefer this version of Elizabeth also. That and the fact that she's a massive glutton and a bit of a ditz kind of makes her a bit more funny, which adds some character gags that I think are pretty funny. It doesn't matter which character has these types of gags. I think it's fun and lighthearted when you have stuff like that. Elizabeth states, "I'll give you something important to girls in exchange to cover the cost," as she just gives her raggedy rags that she just covered herself in to keep her warm to try and pay for the damages that she did to Meliodas' bar. As then, 3 drunken holy knights, asterisks on knights, walks in and heard her say about 7 deadly sins. They're like, it smells like someone is talking about a villainous group, the 7 deadly sins. And Meliodas goes over to her and being like, okay, these are knights of the kingdom. If you don't want to look suspicious, just pretend to not know. As she then begins to sniff her clothes, being like, do I really stink that much? Showing how much of an idiot she actually is. Which just continually infuriates this drunken, I'm just going to say apprentice knight, as they go on to talk about the 7 deadly sins and how they tried to overthrow her kingdom and that she's looking for them, blah, 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 and says that they're going to give her a baptism. And apparently, it's stated that the word baptism for the Holy Knights is literally just a nicer way of saying brutal torture and potential death. As Elizabeth's like, yeah, no, I'm going to pass on that. I like her reactions more in this version. I feel like that she's more... I cannot gush how I like this version of Elizabeth more than the Elizabeth we got at the start of 7 Deadly Sins. 7 Deadly Sins, she developed throughout it, but it was relatively slow progression for her character. This one, she has, like I said, more of a personality. After some back and forth, Elizabeth just flat out states, I hate the Holy Knights, shocking these drunken idiots, as well as everyone in the bar as they begin to run away, not wanting to be around the ensuing massacre that is supposed to take place. He gives her one last chance to take back her words, but she says, yeah, no way, as she then begins to try and attack Elizabeth, as Meliodas just goes in between them and says, hold on a minute. No drunken rampages in my bar, please. Please pay your bills and leave right away. And then he points at Elizabeth very angrily and saying, I have a mountain of questions that I need to ask you. As Elizabeth, in response, states, I want to eat a mountain load of food, as she's just not paying attention to Meliodas, giving a very hungry looking face as she's kind of like spacing out. The drunken idiots, I'm just going to call them drunken idiots, try to attack Meliodas, but Meliodas says, my word is law in this bar. No matter what, definitely, even if I die, I'll have you out of here. As he then kicks a bottle, hits a knight that ends up being a lever, opening a trapdoor, as we then see them being hurled out the side of a mountain. So, I like that. That's actually funny. Why didn't the main Meliodas actually have this? This feels like a very fun thing to keep in the story. I get that we were on Hawk's mom's back, but I feel like this would have been a really fun plot device to just get rid of unwanted guests. Every bar should have this. Anyway, back to main story. He goes back to try and scold Elizabeth, stating, are you stupid? As she's playing with the lever while Meliodas is close to being over the trapdoor. So yeah, she is kind of an idiot in this version. He then continues to berate her, stating to pick a fight with Knights of the Kingdom. It's a one-way ticket to prison. She'll definitely get executed. Because now the rest of the customers ran away, he didn't get any money. But then, in response to saying one-way ticket to prison, Elizabeth's like, how much money could I get if I sell that ticket? And yeah, Meliodas just basically in a stump. He just has the worst luck with customers today. Elizabeth is looking a little glum, as Meliodas is like, sorry, I was kind of harsh on you, and then it's revealed she's only like this right now because she's just incredibly hungry. As he then just cooks up a meal for her, as she asks for his name, as he says, my name is Meliodas, master of this bar. And he says, and you? As she just starts eating the food, saying thank you, and says, I'm just an ordinary Elizabeth that you can find anywhere. Which is, throws Meliodas for a bit of a loop for a second. He's like, I mean, it is a pretty common name, I guess. But you don't seem like a girl from towns or villages around here. Just take your time, eat, and tell me what... And then she just immediately finishes her food and says that was good, shocking Meliodas as to how fast she gulped all that down. But he then tries to change the subject back on topic, stating, okay, the 7 deadly sins. You were talking about them earlier, and then she immediately falls asleep in the chair to try and basically get her somewhere where she could actually rest properly. He mumbles to himself that I should probably just throw you out in the blizzard. But I have so many things I want to ask you first, as he thinks back to what she was saying when she entered the bar looking for the 7 deadly sins. She then starts to try and eat Meliodas' head in her gluttonous dream state. He then throws her on his bed as he walks downstairs and puts her in covers so she could actually rest. Saying that she does kind of have nerves of steel and a very ridiculous appetite. As he just walks out of the room stating, no clues today either. As she mumbles to herself in her sleep, 7 deadly sins. And that she'll find them for sure with tears welling up in her eyes as Meliodas notices this. We then cut over to a town where A holy knight he basically kills a man for basically opposing for this guy to try and take his sister to be part of his, I'm just going to say harem, I guess. And it's very obvious from the get-go that we're supposed to not like this guy. He is a holy knight, and he is, I'm just going to say, very brutal and not a nice person. But he then goes on to state, no one will be forgiven if they crossed paths with me. He then talks to his three stooges, as I probably should just call them three stooges at the start of this video. Whatever. He asks them what a holy knight is, and they begin to talk about what a holy knight is. And he says that they are correct. But being a holy knight's subordinates need to be equals, unparalleled as well, as he is incredibly furious to know that two brats from a bar made them run away with their tail between their legs and that they're an embarrassment. We then cut back to the bar with Elizabeth waking up in bed with a note next to her stating, "Okay, when you get up, take a bath. You stink way too much." As Meliodas is down cleaning up the bar to make everything nice and neat. Now, one major difference that you've probably noticed, Meliodas is not being a pervert in this version, which I already state as a massive improvement. Look, the pervert gag when you're a kid can be funny, especially if they get their just desserts, but I honestly kind of grown out of it. It's not that funny anymore. You can do it in ways where it could be funny and an interesting character trait. In Eden Zero, the character of Wise is a pervert, but it's not his entire character. That was one of the main problems with Meliodas at the start of the series, because for the most consistent thing, he was a badass that knew how to fight and a good leader, and a massive pervert when it came to Elizabeth. Wise, he does do perverted stuff from time to time and makes these perverted remarks, but he tends to get his comeuppance all the time, and when that happens, it makes his jokes a lot more worth it. That, and he has a character outside of that you could remove the pervert stuff and it honestly wouldn't change much about him, and Wise is still a fan favorite character amongst the Eden Zero community to this day. Hell, we even have him shipped with Hermit, which really great combination, by the way. Anyway, just wanted to mention Eden Zero as a decent way to do a pervert character without it ruining their character. Anyway, as the blizzard rages on outside, Meliodas hears a loud noise, and the door ends up opening up as he didn't close it all the way originally. He goes to close the door and says, "What am I getting so scared about? There's no such thing as ghosts, as there's more noises in the background that scares the crap out of Meliodas," and it's revealed that it's Elizabeth just doing whatever she can to scare Meliodas, as he's very easily scared. Which is, again, I said at the beginning, fun character trait. It's not actually an act. There was nobody around for Meliodas to just pretend to be scared of. But then, gotta censor this part here, Elizabeth just walked out of the bath on her own, wearing nothing. Well, pervert gags. Fan service gags, you gotta have them in your shonen manga most of the time. We almost went the entire one-shot without doing that, but hey, do you, man. Do you, I guess. But Meliodas, yes, the nosebleed thing happens. He's like, "Why are you doing this? Can you not take a bath by yourself?" And as Elizabeth says, "I've never taken a bath by myself before." And he's like, "Just who the hell are you?" There's a boner joke in there, but then we wait till afterwards as she ends up getting the bar uniform for the bar. And again, I actually like this a lot more than the bar uniform Elizabeth has in the main series. I think this is a lot better. And we could argue with the fact that the cleavage showing is something that happens, but no one really cares that much anymore. It's not that big of an issue. It's not even brought up or noticed unless you actually bring it up. And that's something that could easily be fixed later on. But Meliodas gets serious and says, "Okay, what's your reason? Why are you looking for the 7 deadly sins despite the danger?" Elizabeth says that she wants to save the kingdom. Knights are oppressing the people. I'm going to do a quick rundown because this is something that's been stated in the first chapter as well. And Meliodas starts the last saying, "You're looking for poisonous snakes to take care of the rat infestation." This is classic. Do you even know what kind of people the sins are? As Elizabeth says, "I don't know from personal experience, but when I was little, my dad always told me the 7 deadly sins were the strongest and cruelest order of knights in the kingdom, formed by 7 brutal villains." So that is obviously something that's still consistent. Majority of the concept in this one-shot is incredibly consistent and very similar, or just straight out the same, as in the main series that we end up getting. As you continue to say, and as a sign of their identity, they carved symbols of beast symbols into their bodies. But it states that years ago, they were accused of plotting to overthrow the kingdom, and were executed after all the Holy Knights launched a full offensive on them, but heard that the rumor is that they survived somehow. Meliodas says, "If you know all that, why are you looking for terrible criminals?" As Elizabeth just says, the ones who are actually oppressing the people right now are the Holy Knights. The only ones who can stand up against them are the 7 deadly sins. Meliodas looks at her intently as she says, My father tried to stop the Holy Knights, but he was thrown in prison. I don't have anyone else to rely on. As he continues to look at Elizabeth, as he states, what about your resolve? He says the 7 deadly sins are terrible criminals. If they're still alive and you were able to find them, do you really think they just jump right on board? And says, hypothetically, if I knew them personally and were to put in a good word with them, how much resolve would you show me? She then pulls out a dagger and then begins just nonchalantly and no hesitation try to stab her own hand as Meliodas just puts his hand over hers and takes the knife for her. This shocks her as well. She is something that I do kind of like is that there is one consistency in terms of character for this version of Elizabeth and the Elizabeth we get in the main series. She's not afraid to put herself at risk when it comes to what she believes in. We see this in the Bastet prison arc where she literally got herself attacked all around and beaten and bruised just for a slight chance to keep Meliodas and Deanne from killing each other due to an illusion. Seeing a bit more straightforward and no hesitation approach to this, which is something that both versions of the character do share, it's nice. It's really nice to see some of the basis of these characters in the one-shot, as this tends to be the case. Elizabeth is shocked by this, but Meliodas just says, yeah, that's good pain and resolve. As he then looks over and says, looks like a customer who can't wait for opening time. As the bar door is broken open by one of the Holy Knights, I'm not going to say his name, I don't really care for it, as he goes in looking for the people that his stooges were so scared of. And it's like two little brats. And he notices Elizabeth, stating that she is a fugitive and former princess, which shocks Meliodas. Wait, you're a princess? As she calls out to the knight stating, yeah, let my dad go, but he says, can't do that. Times are changing. In place of the incompetent royal family, we the powerful holy knights will build a new age. As he smirks stating, you and your father, though, have the support of the people and are, to be frank, quite a nuisance. This is convenient. Disappear along with that brat. As the holy knights squad runs over, as Meliodas just beats the ever-living crap out of one of them, knocks him into the blizzard as he says, I won't let you lay a single finger on Elizabeth. And as more knights show up, he casually pushes them aside. Obviously, Meliodas being a badass. The knight compliments him, saying not bad, as Meliodas says, are you the one that did that to them? Aren't they your subordinates? As the Holy Knight says, yeah, it doesn't matter. Hurry up and take care of them, as multiple of these knights attack, as Meliodas continues to beat them back without any effort, stating that a knight protects the comrades, the people, the promises, the principles. They are guardians. As then this Holy Knight leader swings his sword, breaking up a good number of tables in the bar. Just being like, come on, knights in the past, that was just a joke. I heard jokes about knights being like that in the past, similar to when the 7 deadly sins were still around. But then it's revealed that a table leg apparently was not destroyed. And Meliodas grabs this, table leg. It's obviously a sword hilt, as he states, we protected and protected some more. From when the kingdom was a tiny fledgling until it was a massive kingdom. We zealously protected and completely crushed all enemies, because that was our pride. As Elizabeth notices the dragon tattoo on Meliodas' right arm. As he then picks up this sword out from the ground, showing just how big it is. It's honestly really huge, as Elizabeth notices who Meliodas actually is. And then when she calls out his name, the Holy Knight is like, wait, Meliodas, there was someone with that name like that in their group. A kid like this, a member of the 7 deadly sins? That's impossible. Meliodas says, correct, but just a little off. The Order of Great Evil Knights, the 7 deadly sins. I'm the captain, Meliodas, holding a giant-ass sword over his shoulders that only the likes of Guts from Berserk would hold. Okay, I'm just going to say this. This Meliodas and Guts. Sword duel. That would be epic. No idea who would win, though, because this is all hypothetical, and who the hell cares? The Holy Knight then just goes berserk and starts attacking Meliodas, as quickly he somehow manages to swing a sword around to parry each and every one of these attacks without anybody noticing. Meliodas then goes on to say, if you don't want to die, hold your sword up to your chest. As the knight does so, Meliodas lunges his sword forward, hitting the knight outside of his bar into the mountains, as he says, the repair fees are on you. Knocking him clear across the mountain range, as he screams out in pain and being absolutely terrified, with his Holy Knight compatriots running after him. Meliodas then puts the sword back in the ground, stating to Elizabeth that he's going to take on her request. She's excited at first, but is like, wait, but I'm the daughter of the king that condemned you for sins you didn't commit. But Meliodas just says, I saw your resolve and determination. That's more than enough. Whether you're a princess or an ordinary person, I swear it on the name of the 7 deadly sins. No matter what, definitely, even if I die, I'll rebuild the kingdom. As this makes her incredibly happy, Meliodas says, first we gotta find the other members. As he yanks another bottle on the shelf, revealing something else going on with the bar. As he states, if we are to protect the kingdom, we'll need all their strength. As the bar begins to move with a huge 2-page spread, showing the bar is on top of a giant castle piece with mechanical spider-like legs, and that is how Meliodas has been traveling from place to place across Britannia, collecting information on the sins. As the chapter ends, they end up heading off on their adventure. Well, that was the one-shot, and honestly, it was really good. I liked it more than the first chapter. While Hawk was not in it, which already bumped it down a few points, it was honestly a really good chapter. While I do think Twigo was a better villain in terms of just personality, having someone like, I don't know, this nameless knight I don't remember, be just crazy and villainous really does fit the fact that, yeah, we're supposed to fight these holy knights, they're oppressing the people, and it makes things just as compelling. I already stated why I liked this version of Elizabeth more than the Elizabeth we had during the beginning portions of the 7 Deadly Sins main story, and I still stand by that, and I'm curious to see where the story would have gone if we maintained that direction with the characters. Meliodas, I kind of like him in this section as well. I like the main Meliodas also, he's got a really cool personality, but this one makes him feel a bit more grounded, I guess. He's scared of ghosts, he's easily frightened, he might be a badass with a sword a size of, like, Guts' sword from Berserk, and he is incredibly strong, as well as the fact that he's still looking for 7 Deadly Sins and can take things seriously. We also don't have the pervert gag, so that makes him instantly more likable to most people. So, I don't mind it, honestly. One of the negatives 7 Deadly Sins had was Meliodas being a pervert, and that gone already makes him a better character in terms of a lot of people's eyes, and I think that helps also. But yeah, I kind of liked this version of Meliodas and Elizabeth. While I do like the main series of 7 Deadly Sins a lot, problems and all, I think if the series went in this direction, it would have been interesting to see where this whole alternate universe take would have gotten. But yeah, that was the 7 Deadly Sins one-shot. I enjoyed it, as I stated. The art was still amazing. I liked how this chapter and the first chapter were basically the same thing, just with a couple of key things changed and switched up, which I think it had a much better flow to it. And I kind of like the interaction between Meliodas and Elizabeth in this one a bit more than the original. And it makes me curious to see how things would have played out if we maintained this tone and direction for the characters in the one-shot as we go into the main series. But those are just my opinions on the one-shot. What did you guys think of it? Was it great? Was it good? Was it okay? Or do you prefer the first chapter of 7 Deadly Sins more than the one-shot? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below on all these, and what other series you'd like me to talk about. Any specific 7 Deadly Sins content you'd like to hear me talk about in the future, because you can never have too much 7 Deadly Sins content, right? But yeah, that's basically the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. It really helps, and it shows you guys enjoy what I make here. And if there's anything else you'd like me to talk about, let me know, and I'll see if I can get to it. But with all that said and done, I hope you guys enjoyed this little video, and hope you all have an awesome day.